Hey guys, so today's video is a mini tea of things happening on the internet, so let's just catch up. Social media will be in the description along with my movie commentary channel and anything else you might need to find. Subscribe, hit that bell, like, comment for engagement. Let's get into it. So we have Alyssa Violet, who is a ex-member of Team 10. She's kind of like the ex-girlfriend of Jake Paul. I feel like I'm giving like a rundown. You guys probably know who she is, but in case you don't, she was dating Jake Paul back when Team 10 was a thing. It doesn't really seem to be a thing anymore. It's kind of, you know, died a slow and painful death. But she was dating Jake Paul at the time, on and off. He was apparently cheating on her while she was in the house. Like, there was just a lot of like messiness going on. So all of that was happening. She didn't realize how badly he was treating her, and she ended up hooking up with his brother, Logan Paul, after which Jake Paul found out and kicked her out of Team 10. And there was like this big ordeal back then where he was just like filming himself kicking like her out and getting all of her stuff out of the house. So that happened. We then get obviously Jake Paul, Logan Paul diss tracks against each other, some including Alyssa Violet in them, aka Logan Paul's great like part 2 diss track with Alyssa Violet in it. It was crazy at the time. We loved it. Alyssa then moves to kind of have friendship with Rice Gum Banks and the Clout Gang, which was actually set up by Alyssa Violet in part. Like, she was at the time dating Banks, really close friends with Rice Gum, and they all started Clout Gang together and started inviting people in. She then kind of moves away from Clout Gang, and we get her just on TikTok, Instagram. She's not really doing much on YouTube. She's just kind of on Instagram, TikTok, like on all the other social media platforms. Because her and Banks are not together anymore, they don't have Clout Gang anymore, and FaZe Banks is the one kind of doing that. FaZe Banks is obviously still making money from Clout Gang in some way, shape or form, and Alyssa Violet is now suing Banks because apparently she's just not gaining any profits from this. He's making decisions on behalf of Clout Gang, and apparently when they made Clout Gang, she was offered shares and just like, you know, money that she's not been getting, so she's suing him for money for Clout Gang. Now, a lot of Banks's fans are pissed off. They basically think she's a gold digger and just trying to clout chase, and she's getting money that it's not hers, she doesn't deserve, it's all Banks. But she's saying that the agreement they had back in the day means that she is owed money, so she's going to sue him for said money. She then also, in a different TikTok, shades Chantel Jeffries, who used to actually be friends with Catherine McBroom. And by friends, I mean they worked apparently for the same service where they met famous people. I'm not going to get into that, but that is apparently a rumor that is going on. There are like pictures of this, but that's how Chantel Jeffries started on the internet, and now she's an influencer who just posts on Instagram and, like I said, you know, TikTok and all the other places. So Alyssa Violet used to be friends with Chantel Jeffries, best friends even, and then recently she apparently shaded Chantel Jeffries without actually shading Chantel Jeffries. It was kind of like a hint, hint, nudge, nudge, like if you know, you know, if you don't, you don't. And apparently that is because Chantel Jeffries hooked up with Banks. So Chantel Jeffries, Alyssa Violet's best friend, hooked up with Alyssa Violet's ex. If true, trash, but you know, we don't have any proof for this. And then the last thing with Alyssa Violet, she's been getting into a lot of drama lately. She was on the BFFs podcast with Dave Portnoy, Josh Richards, and Brianna, and they're playing a game where 3 names get put up on the screen and she has to, you know, pick a name. She was going over the girls that were on screen, and they were past kind of Team 10 members. She says that she's still friends with Tessa Violet, for example, and then she gets to Erika Castell and she says, I don't know her. Now, she definitely does, because they were there at the same time, and they kind of make her elaborate. She's like, she hooked up with Jake Paul. She was Jake Paul's assistant, and then she hooked up with him. So we're not friends anymore.
Flop or not. So you have to pick. They were all part of Team 10, and then you're going to say if they flopped or if not. Erika Castell.
I don't know who that is.
So do you hate Erika?
She said she didn't know who that is.
That's what I mean. That's got it. I know she knows who it is, bro. I used to watch Team 10. Like, I know.
No, she was Jake's assistant, and then it turns out they were like banging the whole time. I'm like, she was my best friend, and I'm just like, you're gross.
But that's after she said, I don't know her. Now, what makes this even more shady is that even though she clarified that she does in fact know who Erika Castell is, because Josh Richards kind of pushed for it, Erika Castell posted on her Instagram story a repost of Alyssa Violet's post that was sponsored by Erika Castell's clothing brand. So of course, Alyssa Violet knows who Erika is, but maybe she'd rather not. She'd rather not know who Erika Castell is. We then get Logan Paul. Since we're on the topic of Team 10, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, that whole group of people. Logan Paul was recently at a party, and a guy called him a name, said like name calling him outside, and Logan Paul ends up like slapping him across the head, kind of like smacking him across the head, and starts pushing him around. And then Mike tries to get in kind of like the way to stop Logan from beating him up, but also in the process starts beating him up, just starts like pushing him around.
Sign for the homeless kid.
Bro, are you a pussy or what?
What the heck? What the heck?
Who the fuck? You suck. You suck.
Oh shit.
Hey,
shit. Oh shit. Oh damn. Yeah. Toma foto. Oh shit.
And it seems like Logan Paul is very drunk, like very drunk. Not that I'm excusing this behavior, I'm saying he looks visibly drunk on camera. And Mike seems a little bit more sober, so I guess Mike's like, oh, gotta fix this. And then security grab the guy and take him out. And then they start asking every other influencer coming into the party or coming out of the party kind of what they thought about the situation. Even if they weren't there to see it, most people didn't know it was happening while it was happening, and then they just got asked about it. But they got told like, oh, what do you think about Logan Paul beating up this guy for calling him a name? And everyone was basically just like, oh, good for Logan, like he deserves it, like I would do the same. So basically every influencer's just like, oh, I'm glad Logan beat him up. Look, name calling, not a great thing, but also beating someone up for it, probably also not a great thing. I do understand that alcohol can impair your judgment, I do get it, and I do understand that these things happen. Like non-influencers are, you know, fighting in clubs and not getting cancelled for it because we don't know about it. But also like when you are Logan Paul, you're going to assume that there are cameras on you all the time, so probably getting drunk and then fighting someone that called you a name is not a great look because they just called you a name. Call them a name back and leave at the end of the day. I do understand that alcohol impairs judgment, but you know, when you're out in public, maybe just like know your limits. I don't know. Then kind of linked to, once again, Logan Paul and Jake Paul, we're doing just the whole linking sequence. Tana Mongeau. So Tana Mongeau's been in a lot of drama recently, as always, as just her whole career. I don't think anything's changed. But Tana Mongeau was basically spreading fake news about Brian Laundrie, so I'm just going to quickly go into that before doing this, but I don't want to talk about this too much because that's not what my channel's about. There are so many true crime people that are talking about this. I think Kendall Rae's coverage has been the best so far, in my opinion. Her coverage is always the best. So Kendall Rae is covering this a lot in a really respectful manner, unlike some people on the internet. Not shading anyone, but there are definitely some people on like Twitter and TikTok who think it's like funny to exploit this or pretend that they're like communicating with, no, let's just Kendall Rae. So what happened was Brian and Gabby are a couple. They were allegedly engaged, but then they broke off the engagement because she was very young. She was 22, I believe, and they go on a van life trip. So they have this van. It's kind of like this really popular thing to do now, is have a van and kind of do it up and drive around in a van on like road trips. And they basically had a van. They went on a van trip. They go together, they come back, just Brian. And there is a police footage of basically someone called the police on them because apparently they were driving the car recklessly and they looked like they were fighting, so they stopped them. Gabby's quite clearly upset about something, crying. They take her out, she starts blaming herself, says that she's a little bit too much and that she caused this whole argument to happen, which, you know, when someone's that distressed and crying and then blaming themselves, to me that's a sign of something going on. They were just allowed to go. Then she disappears, he goes back home without her, says that he's not going to help the lawyers or the police, he's not going to answer any questions about his missing ex-fiance, now just girlfriend, just refusing to help. His parents are not helping, her parents are obviously distressed because they're looking for their daughter. We then get another van life YouTuber who is driving past where they were last seen and has footage of their van that they sent to the police. The police then confirm that that is in fact their van, start looking for her there and find her remains, sadly. Brian then actually goes missing. The police were supposed to be looking out for his house and like seeing if he's going in and out the house, but somehow he managed to escape. He was then chased down by the FBI and by the dog bounty guy who like apparently manages to find people. I don't know how he does it, but he was very close to finding Brian, and then his remains were found. So now they've both passed away. We don't really know what happened. They're doing, you know, they're doing tests and doing all of that stuff to figure out kind of what happened. I'm pretty sure they know that Gabby has been killed, but they're not sure about Brian. They're not sure about what's going on, and they're still checking his remains. But they are 99% sure that those are his remains due to the dental records, which are very difficult to fake. Like, it's very difficult to fake someone's teeth. But that's what's been found, teeth, and they've pretty much now confirmed that is him. But what they haven't confirmed is the cause of death. So that's the storyline. that is out there. And there was one news source that is unreliable that was basically trying to put a headline forward that was like, it's unconfirmed if it's him. They were basically doing a little bit of like a clickbait situation because it has been confirmed that it's him. It just hasn't been confirmed how he was killed. So Tana Mongeau saw this one headline and was just like, oh my god, it's not confirmed that it's him. She then goes on her TikTok. I'm gonna play the TikTok for you guys.
The other day I tweeted, I know Brian Laundrie is trying to pull a Joe Goldberg. And all of the responses were people being like, why would you make a joke out of this? It's so funny. And I said, I'm not joking. I genuinely think something was placed there so that people would think the remains were him. I think his parents showed up to the forest with a tooth and a water bottle and whatever else they could find and a letter and a journal and whatever so that authorities would think he's dead when they know damn well he ain't dead. Why did the parents not start looking until they had to? Because they know their son's not dead. Why were his remains found 24 hours after his parents started searching? Because he's not dead. And today, news sources confirmed that the remains were not him. It is now rumored that the funeral that 2 people would have attended is going to be called off. Brian Laundrie is pulling a Joe Goldberg. I guarantee you he's in like Paris, France right now, living his best life, getting a croissant. He is alive. And that's the tea.
But she's basically like trying to have this weird conspiracy theory about him like disappearing and changing his identity. Now, spoiler alert for You. She mentions You season 3, in which Joe at the end kills his wife and then kills himself, pretends to kill himself, and disappears to Paris. She's like, oh, this is going to be a You Joe situation where he like changes identity and like moves to a different country. And she's making all these conspiracy theories, which is why I mentioned at the start, respectful versus disrespectful coverage of the Gabby and Brian case. Kendall Ray, you know, puts forward some theories, but they're usually quite respectful and just like things that news sources are talking about. And then you have people on TikTok who think this is like a big trend or like a big joke to talk about people's murder cases in a non-respectful way. This was not respectful. This was just not respectful. Putting forward these weird theories and comparing this to a TV show, calling it like gossip and drama, like it's a murder case. Someone died. Let's try to be respectful. So she got a lot of hate for that in the comments, and rightfully so. I just don't think that was the right call to make. But that is not all. We also have a different case of Tana mess ups. There was a party that she attended and a picture was taken of her where she's holding her phone kind of outwards. So you can see her phone screen, it lit up when she picked it up. And her lock screen wallpaper is Stormy, aka like Kylie Jenner's daughter, which I do understand that that is a public figure, but Kylie is a public figure. Stormy gets posted by Kylie because mums post their kids on the internet. But Stormy is not the public figure. Technically, like Kylie Jenner is the public figure. Stormy is just her daughter. Okay, let's just be clear on that. And so her lock screen wallpaper is Stormy. This then gets reposted by a Kylie Jenner fan account, and Stassi Baby and another one of Kylie's friends respond in the comments and say, this is really weird. Why does this random woman have Stormy as her like a lock screen wallpaper? This is really strange, because even though, like I said, Kylie Jenner is a public figure and she posts Stormy on the internet, that does not mean that you get to then take that picture and make it your wallpaper, because it's really weird. Like, it's as if you went on Facebook and saw a mum post her kid and then just took that kid's picture and made it your wallpaper. It's weird to me. I don't know why you would have someone else's child as your wallpaper. But anyway, so Twitter in the comment section then go wild with the story. They're like, why does Tana Mongeau have someone else's child as her wallpaper? But now a few people, this was definitely the minority, but a few people were defending Tana and saying Stormy's basically a public figure at this point. It's not weird. Some people, though, were calling out Stassi and saying that she's a hypocrite because she has Stormy's name tattooed on her arm, like right here. Tana Mongeau is not friends with Kylie Jenner. Stassi and Kylie are best friends, and they got this tattoo together because Stassi is basically like family to Stormy. This is not comparable in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, a lot of people are calling out Tana Mongeau, just basically being like, this is really weird. Why would you do this? Why would you have someone else's child as your wallpaper? Explain. So let me know what you guys think about any of the stories I mentioned. Subscribe with that bell, like, comment for engagement, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.